They had an excuse for locking the doors on the poor people who worked on the Titanic when a lot of people think that they knew it was going to sink. A good and faithful servant gets more than a pat on the back. What motivates to gild the lily? What motivated Dr. Torrance Paco Guasp? Hola, Luther. What motivated Dr. Paco? He understood the heart is a rope tied in a helical band, a helical knot. It's the Gregorian knot. That's what he understood, and he proved it to the world with a very humble workaday attitude. It was my understanding the rocks were reserved in judgment, and I proved it in a very methodical workabout. Look at this rock, I'll cut it open. It should look like this. It does. I'm a theologian. I proved it to myself because everybody is working out their own salvation and getting their faith what they can believe. And if they're called, they go preach. First, I proved it to myself because I'm theologian. Now I consider myself Alan Salt Paco Hughes, named after Dr. Torrance Paco Guasp, the man who stuck with it with 45 years when everybody else was saying, the heart is a pump. And he was saying no, and he proved it. I'm bound as a servant, really a slave, to take lessons that are learned to heart. I am not so much seeking reward as I am avoiding punishment of the wrath of God. Any reward I get is a benefit of knowing the Bible's true, and there's a way we should behave or we should not. My father had a positive reaction when he saw I had put my name on the baseball mitt he had purchased. I didn't just draw my initials in it, I put in block letters my full name. I know that it made him happy because he sought me out to tell me that made me happy. I was only thinking that I did not want any confusion. I didn't want it stolen. I was telling the truth to more than paint a picture in your mind. My dad had seen other men's sons shame them. And in the 1960s and 70s, that was a big deal. He didn't want any part of that. I tried to give him every reason to be proud of me. I want my Father in heaven to know I'm a good and faithful servant. He did not want to be ashamed. So, how do we explain in the Bible people like Jehoram? That I see that my microphone just for no reason went out, but I got a note here. Check the microphone, it's going to be good. So, who is Jehoram? For the last few years, I've been kind of stuck on First and Second Chronicles. You know, it's like there is no book of Isaiah, so you got to look up some of the things he wrote. It's in First and Second Chronicles. I think we'll start with that. I do have to show this. I'm not going to be doing a lot except making sure my microphone works. I don't have any real pictures because I was using that off again. And now I saw it and I turned it back on. I'm going to keep going. Who is Jehoram? Let me explain that a little bit better here. There it is. Now look at this. 2 Chronicles 21, verse 4. When Jehoram had ascended to the throne of his father and was established, he killed all his brothers with the sword, and also some of the princes of Israel. Well, who is this guy? Well, he is the son of a Jehoshaphat, one of the good kings, one of the yay, hooray, he's like Uzziah, pretty much good guy. Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers, but Jehoram was the firstborn. Now, when he ascended to the throne of his father, he killed all his brothers with the sword. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem, that star fort rebuilt city. It was called, when Melchizedek, Salem. Then the names changed. David, King David took it back. Now, this guy fell very far from the tree. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel and as the house of Ahab had done, Jezebel's husband, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife. Now, there you go. There you go, you horned dogs. You better be selective out there, or I'm going to rub it in your face when she walks away. And now you're going like, look, there's a lot of people been married 5 times. Wow. You're not going to believe this guy. It's Ahab and his wife, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Yet the Lord, this is the takeaway for me, was not willing to destroy the house of David, because we have a covenant-keeping God, and he had made it with David because he was going to be the king that pretended to be crazy when he needed to. Listen to, oh, hey, what's up? Well, didn't you say Solomon would be the king? Ooh, dang. Yes, I did, and I must do the right thing or I will suffer. So there you go. Thank you, Bathsheba, for reminding me. She was out to save her own life. Thank you, Nathan. Did you know that Nathan, the prophet, that's who in the line of David had a son and named him Nathan, and Nathan is in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. He descends through Nathan, the guy that we're talking about. They don't mention, we don't have those oral traditions and some of those other things. Now, I don't know anywhere in the scripture it's going to be talking about, and this is how you properly shave your head. There's no instructions on how Christians baptized for the dead. All I know is it's not what the Mormons are doing. That much is a guarantee. Yeah, and he shaved his head in Acts 21 too. So we'll take a second, and I'm going to pull that up because I want to make this a relevant show and go with the flow to people in the know. And if it takes going, cheesy poetry while I'm fishing around going like, wow, is Acts still in the New Testament? It's been there for a long time. Paul stayed many days. Yeah, he's under a vow. See, once you're a Jew, the reason he was like, look, Peter, just because you had this thing, and Gentiles are equal and they can still eat that other food, it doesn't mean you can eat it. And that's when Peter was like, oh, okay, I get it. What? Oh, yeah. That one's on me, guys. Because that's the whole takeaway is people don't understand Acts 15 because it's as silly as equating that, once there's a new covenant, and they did have other things they still added to it that they had to do for Jesus and didn't do. There was only one place where they had to go, and Jews kept the law. And the blood was on their hands, and only very few were saved. It says the world was turned upside down, and the gospel was preached to every creature under heaven, all the Gentiles. And then they deserted Christ too. But when Paul told them that, James was happy to say, well, we got thousands of believers here in Jerusalem, in a town of 1 million. So there are under vows. Now, you get back into how bad and how far an apple from a very holy family could fall for it. Listen to this. It's not that bad. He forsake the Lord, the God of his fathers. Moreover, that means you're not going to believe this. He did this too. In the hill country of Judah, he led the inhabitants of Jerusalem into whoredom, made Judah go astray. And a letter came to him from Elijah, the prophet, saying, thus says the Lord, the God of David your father, because you have not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat, your father, in the ways of Asa, king of Judah, but have walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, or Judah, and the enticed Judah to walk in the ways of Israel, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem into whoredom, as the house of Ahab led Israel, Oholabah, into whoredom. And also you have killed your brothers and your father's house who were better than you. Behold, the Lord will bring a great plague on all your people, your children, your wives, and all your possessions. And you yourself will have a severe sickness with a disease of the bowels until your bowels come out because of the disease day by day. And when that happened, it lasted 2 long years. The Lord stirred up against Jehoram the anger of the Philistines and the Arabians who are near the Ethiopians. They came out, invaded it, carried away all the possessions they found belonging in the king's house, sons, his wife, so that no one was left except Jehoahaz. And then he got struck in the bowels. But it was a bad thing. He offered his children. He fell very far from the tree. I should check my mic, make sure that thing is. You didn't see the screen when I was sharing it? Well, do you see the Bible right now? Because as I'm showing it, and I don't want to stop now. I got a lot going. I don't, as of right now, you don't see the screen. Do you see this video?
Another. Another.
Okay, thank you. Missed the presentation, but the mic was on. Jackson, thank you. I had a feeling that that's not going to be the only thing messed up. So here was the first video I did. I just wanted to show what we all know. This is going on. They had a history, good kings, bad kings. The Lord is in total control of a book written in from the beginning. Where's Sharon? I got a feeling.
Another. Another.
Now, my position has always been these are the Bible towns. They cleaned up some, they left, they don't have time. The rubble's too much. We know how much work it was to rebuild Jerusalem. So the measurements, everything, let's let it sink in and I'll skip around a little bit.
Again. Going up here. Not really getting smaller. Antwerp, I think we have the same.
Do you see what I'm seeing? Is this not bizarre?
So we go back to Antwerp. I think we have the same idea going on here. The reason for that is that here, that's quite clear.
This is how we kind of we were, remember when we used to be like, this is amazing.
Can you see the structures I'm seeing with the star forts that I pointed out to you earlier in Antwerp, around Antwerp? Was that not the shape of the star forts around Antwerp? Or something? I mean, I'm trying to pause at the right moment here. Is anybody seeing this? I mean, let me know what you think here, folks. See the way, as the wave collapses and as it moves and as it shifts, I'm wondering, well, here's what I wondered. I wondered, because I've looked at these star forts.
That's some pretty good work. I always like this. I should show it more often.
Or something. Could I amplify a signal big enough to vibrate the earth at the same frequency as the earth and the stone to form these patterns from the earth from above? This is my own theory, folks. I'm not kind of, it was actually my eldest son said to me, "Hey, Dad, have you seen this crazy guy online that's doing all sorts of weird music? And his weird music is making real weird patterns on the screen of an oscilloscope." And I said, "Well, hey, I got to have a look at that." And I looked and I saw this. And I thought, well, that's strange. It coincides with the research I'm doing on the star forts. And then this as well. And I see this shape and I'm like, what the hell is this?
Like 7 years ago, I was trying to make it a thing. I was trying to go on my shows. I'd go like, "That's a star fort, baby. That's my email."
And I'm seeing similar shapes. I'm wondering, well, I'll let you hear the sound again. So he's talking a bit there, but I'll give you some. But they couldn't have been built for that purpose. They just couldn't have. When you look at them.
If you wanted to build a city back then, it probably wasn't that hard. The vibrations. Let's see what else we had. Huh. This ought to be weird.
Nationally successful genres, including westerns. But Germany's fascination with the frontier did not begin with Hitler. That story really began decades earlier.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to tell you. What I'm trying to get here is there is a time and a place for most of history when the driving thought among men was, I want my man to be a man. I want my son to be a man. I want to be a man. I want God to think I'm a good and faithful man. And so they were training men using the evil Hollywood to show them how to be a man and to go charge into battle and hit the beach. Hit the beach, boys.
With Karl May. Beginning in the 1880s and continuing into the early 1900s, Karl May became one of the most successful adventure writers in Europe, despite barely visiting the American West himself. His novels featured deserts, outlaws, frontier journeys, Native American tribes, wilderness adventures, and heroic struggles across enormous landscapes. For generations of German readers, Karl May helped define what the American West looked like. His books sold in enormous numbers and became deeply embedded in German popular culture decades before the Nazis came to power. And among Karl May's reported admirers was Adolf Hitler himself. The Nazi leadership had grown up consuming romanticized myths about the American frontier, just like millions of other Europeans. The American West had become part of German popular imagination long before the Third Reich existed. But Karl May's stories also created ideological problems for the Nazis, such as his Apache chief who was portrayed sympathetically, honorably, and heroically. The books often emphasized friendship and mutual respect across cultures. Some Nazi officials distrusted those themes, but audiences loved Karl May too much to suppress him completely. Of Johann Sutter, a Swiss-German immigrant whose California land became the center.
This is important to me because this is Sutter's Mill. This Jewish person got sent over there and basically discovered the gold rush, and this is all fake. It's all fake, man. They have been so set up. We are set up by Britain, Spain, the Roman Catholics, who, since Satan has been loosed, has been using Hollywood to brainwash us. And that's everybody in the world knows about Sutter's Mill. It's where the gold is. Man, I've never been happier to have been a good and faithful servant. And I want to keep it up so bad because I do not want the judgment and their evilness. They're liars. They're the total bad guys. This is Sutter's Mill.
Of the gold rush. Significantly, the film reframes him as straightforwardly German, even having him keep his German name throughout, rather than adopting the anglicized John he used in real life. Trenker plays Sutter as a rugged frontier dreamer who travels west hoping to build a peaceful agricultural empire in California. At first, the film presents the frontier almost romantically. There are wagon caravans crossing enormous landscapes, frontier settlements rising from the wilderness, farmers and pioneers trying to build a new life far from Europe. But everything changes once gold is discovered on Sutter's land. Prospectors flood into the territory. Greed spreads.
Trust me, it is not that easy to climb down the mountains. You gotta be kidding me.
Rapidly. Violence erupts. Order collapses. The dream of building civilization on the frontier slowly destroys itself. Sutter watches helplessly as the empire he tried to create is consumed by the gold rush. Visually, the film looked remarkably close to an American Western. There were saloons, horses, rough frontier towns, prospectors, campfires, gambling halls, and sweeping outdoor landscapes. Some exterior scenes were even shot on location in the American Southwest, at Sedona, the Grand Canyon, and Death Valley. The film became one of the internationally recognized prestige productions of Nazi-era German cinema, and even won the Mussolini Cup at the Venice Film Festival. And Louis Trenker.
Look at that. How could he not win? I'm telling you, if I had a chance, I'd take that pipe and say, I'll give you $40 American money.
Himself became central to its appeal. He specialized in stories about masculine endurance, wilderness survival, and heroic struggle against nature. His films often celebrated toughness, sacrifice, and leadership. Those themes overlapped comfortably with parts of Nazi cultural ideology, but he was never viewed as a fully reliable political filmmaker in the way openly ideological directors were. That ambiguity makes the film even more fascinating historically. That frontier influence appeared again in 1938 with Sergeant Barry, starring Hans Albers, who was one of the biggest movie stars in Germany. Confident, charismatic, funny, and physically imposing, Albers became enormously popular playing adventurous masculine heroes, and Sergeant Barry leaned heavily into that image. The film plays as a comedy western, following a tough Chicago police sergeant who is sent south to the Mexican-American border on a dangerous mission involving smugglers and criminals. The story moves quickly from one danger to
I mean, that's enough. But I mean, a Russian cop from Chicago gonna go down there and set them straight. Make sure I'm still got my microphone on. Star Folks just took a whole new meaning. All right. This is what I was going to talk about the other day. The Dome. These people are very much a mystery, mainly centered around a biblical town. 1600s, Romanite Jewish rabbi, Kabbalist. Well, there you go. Claimed to be the Jewish Messiah, eventually feigned conversion to Islam. There had to be a secret society because there wasn't a Muhammad. You want to do a zeitgeist test? Go try to find out any information about Muhammad. There wasn't even a Mecca. All of that was built after Satan was loosed, and this is the non-masculine world that they brought it to, where they don't even go like, it's not binary. Women can be girls, girls can be boys, boys can be rabbits. They're apostates. They're dome. You could just search it. What do you got?
All right, guys. I am going live right out of the gate today. This is the Chosen Kingdom. Live. I'm the chosen right out of the gate today. This is the Chosen Kingdom. About a few things, but first I'm going to show some stuff. Magi Party. Go and check out the candidate. And so this guy Ule was married to Marina Abramovich for years. And they did all this transcendental meditation and they combined as one person. You got to go through his stuff. His name is Ule. So I started off here.
Now remember, put it in context. I'm here at Adams State University to get to the Epstein connection. Now we know the Zorro Ranch connection. And now for over 15, 16 years, it's what I believe. I know when I took the class, they teach Marina Abramovich is the greatest performance artist of our time. She's living, but she may be considered at one time the greatest ever. She's one of these dorme Jews that Hillary Clinton and Podesta's, the pizza cult, the Frankist type situation. You have to just sit down and let it wash over you.
And when I was going through here, what I wind up doing, and I explained it in my second video ever, is how I get through this. I'll connect through Wikipedia and then I'll look further because it's very easy to sort of get through everything and see all the connections when you're on Wikipedia, whether it's real or not, who knows, right? So now when I go over and I began to look into these things, we're going to see stuff from Born and from Serenity in here. But what it connected to, the first thing was C.W. Ledbetter, the textbook of Theosophy, and I started listening to that and connected into some things. And for those of you who don't know, Pearl Jam wrote a song called Yellow Ledbetter. And if you listen to it, you would think it's about somebody coming back from war, but I would say no, it's about this. If you look at a picture of C.W. Ledbetter, and let me show you, you're going to be amazed. And this is a little off topic, folks, but I'm about to blow your mind. Look at this. Look at this. And now I want you to look at a picture of Eddie Vedder. Okay. So here's Eddie Vedder. And here's C.W. Ledbetter. Eddie Vedder. C.W. Ledbetter. Eddie Vedder. C.W. Ledbetter. So that's just off topic for a second, but I wanted to show you that relative to Marina Abramovich's husband, who they wound up divorcing. It's a whole other dig within itself, I'm sure. So this led me to Joseph Wolf, who was a Jewish man who became a Christian missionary. But what he really was a hidden Sabbatean Frankist who, an AKA a Judaizer, who came in and he was brought in from the church in order to create this diasporic environment among the European Christians. Oh, it's a whole big dig here. Just into that one alone, I'm sure I didn't even touch into it, but I want you all to really take a look into these people, because these people are not who we think they are, not who they were presented to us. So he was evangelizing the Jews, Western missionaries, and the encounters with the Sabbatean Donme community in the Ottoman Empire. So you can download this PDF, and I'm not going to download it right now.
So we've been touching on this recently. I'm going to skip ahead.
So, Transcending Diaspora, Studies on Sabbateanism and the Donmes. There are all of these studies where, if you read down on some of it, these were the only Jews that lived in, let me get to it. Hold on. Give me a second. Oh, wow. I'm getting into some stuff here. So the crypto Jews and the Mad Hatters of Angora. I got to show you guys this. So let's do escape. All right.
And there are a lot of interconnecting levels here. It gets a little complex. So I feel that a lot of the mysteries here are a little bit beyond the canon scope of this video. So I'm not going to fully get into them here, but you just need to know you can meditate on these verses and on these mysteries in your own time, but just know that there's a lot of levels interconnecting here, and it's very, very esoteric.
So what this is I'm going to peel this back here a second. Hold on. And show it to you. But this is a Sabbatean Frankist adept who claims to be a grandmaster, but nice. And he's speaking of all of these so-called secrets, but they're not secrets because what he's telling I already knew. And so he is just confirming things that I've already known. And you should look up this channel because it is really interesting.
So that is interesting. We'll see what else you got.
Charge through him, Julius Caesar. It's what he made different from the SPQR, right? So what they learned through that was the way in which to control the populace was to make them think that they were in control. And so how do you do that? You infiltrate everything and you become a part of those other things, and then you become the leaders of that because guess what? We're in control of all the money. We're in control of all the land. We're in control of everything. So eventually, as we rise up to the top, because we're helping one another behind the scenes in our little cult, as we're playing our little pedophilia games, right? And everyone has each other's back, because if everybody doesn't have each other's back, then everybody's going down for, you know, fiddling with kids. And so The Burden of Silence is a book, Sabbatai Zevi, and the Evolution of the Ottoman and Turkish Donmas. And when you look at it, when you read just slight, just the chapters of it, just the opening outline of it, you will see that this is all, you know, them. They realized that Jesus was a real thing and they had to stop it. The Romans needed a way.
So let's jump ahead, see how far he goes into our recent history.
The Bible was put together. So Thessalonica, as a magister, was lynched by the urban riot and angry mob in the circus after having a famous circuit charioteer arrested for pederastry. Okay, what is pederastry? Let's just look at that real quick. And I'm just going to share this for a second. SEX, activity involving a man and a boy or a youth. Hello, people. So wait a second. The magistrate was accusing the famous charioteer of being a pedo. And he had him arrested. The people demanded he release him, and they wound up mobbing, lynching the magistrate of the Romans there. So what happens? The Romans come in and just obliterate the place. Just execute them all. So this was originally a place of a massacre of the Jews right after the beginning of Christendom. Like, Christendom did not exist up until, the 200s. It wasn't the thing, right? It became the thing when the Roman army insisted that everyone become a Christian. Everybody needs to go and look up all the reasons why. I mean,
And so he's halfway there on history. and read the Bible as it's true. The millennium's over. But Jesus said he came back in that generation. He must have. So we'll give him another chance.
You all to realize that the wool is being pulled over our eyes. You have the Jewish people, or the people who became, the Israelites, the 12 tribes that got pushed all over, right? They knew that everyone else knew that God was with them, right? But what they couldn't, the only thing that they could do was everything had to be bastardized, everything. So the whole intention is going to be to make Jews evil. But now, once you have Christ, all of that power moves over onto Christ. And so they had to find a way back in order to take that energy back. And so, how did they figure out how to do it? Well, they mimicked Julius Caesar. Augustus Caesar recreated what Julius Caesar had in a bigger way, and he did it under the Temple of Set. He created two cults in order to do this, people. And so what they understood that was different was that instead of attacking you from the outside, that they were going to attack all of you from the inside by becoming you and pretending to be you through the Frankist movement. And so that Frankist movement became what is today known as these secret societies. Some of them may be pedos, some of them not. Some of them may be Satanists, some of them maybe not. But what they all are is adepts who follow an order. And they do it because of this whole setup around the Romans. The Romans, the Greeks, it's all the same people. It goes back to the Phoenicians and the Tower of Babel and the fall of society. When Eve ate the apple, it was the same thing. It was just the first move in all of this that was being set up for a deception. We've all been deceived, and we all need to go towards Jesus.
Was it really, did it all start with Eve? Was that the first sin? Because 1 John chapter 3, verse 8, the second half of that verse says, the reason Christ came to earth was to deal with sin in heaven. And let's face it, how could there not have already been sin before Eve if a deceiver shows up? Something to think about. So here's what I had as far as a few other those Wikipedia pages. This is that same one, the Dome. These are they're talking about the Marina Abramoviches of today. Right now they don't have to claim that they're a part of a religion. When they started, you had to be religious. Now you could be spiritualist. That's in Thessalonica. It's always been a Starfort city. Everything's always been a Starfort city. The troglodytes, the people who lived underground, that was their choice. It was for their safety. And it's so easy because the Titans' hollow cavities, as they're reserved in judgment, just outline their veins, arteries, and call it a tunnel. Look, it goes straight underground with these majestic curves that we put in there. There's their graveyard. How secret can they be? They have their own graveyards. Istanbul is Constantinople. I searched something. Okay. Got it. I searched something else. Got it. I ended up on that guy. Did this. Nathan of Gaza, somebody else we're going to have to look at here. No. Don't do it, Paco. Don't go. There might be giants. Don't do it. I'm going to do it because I showed that thing already.
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Been a long time gone, Constantinople, now Turkish delight on a moonlit night. Every gal in Constantinople lives in Istanbul, not Constantinople. So if you've a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting in Istanbul. Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. So take me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul. Istanbul. Istanbul, even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Then Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks.
I mean, it's got the Hagia Sophia. Why did they change the name? Because Satan is loosed. It goes on, you saw all the eye symbolism and stuff.
So take me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone, Constantinople.
Okay. So there's this guy, Jewish, claiming to be Messiah, another guy, like that guy did. He was a famous prophet, and then he goes, you know what? No, I am the guy. Says he grew up in Jerusalem. No, he didn't. No, he did not. That's a fake Jerusalem. They making it all up. You got to know that. It doesn't match the description at all. Bringing it into the 20th century. Look at him. I am the Jewish mysticism. I am going to someday hang out with Marina Abramovich. Ooh. Where's those dome? Here's somebody here. We got a lot of look at this is way too long. Jewish Messiah claimants. I wonder where they're putting David and Cyrus the Great. They never claimed to be the Messiah. This another not fake, super fake. This is even more fake. The Maccabean Revolution, come on. So there is the one, the only, the original, the God of the universe, the spirit God, because, you know, God is a spirit. There was a spirit world before there was this physical world. He's teaching a lesson to the angels who must ascend. Yeah, Satan. We can, you know, I wish we could read more about it, but we get enough to know that he's the father of the lies. Couldn't accept correction, something. Look at these hand signals. There's something to that two-finger salute. I couldn't find anything really, but I want to keep moving it here. So this is what they call that tree, the donut. We're not going to get, I clicked on the picture to be like, show me the picture. Different words, holy wisdom, true will, theolema, concepts within a system of theolema, true will. So if it says theolema, that's Crowley's nonsense, you know, and again, 1900, leading up to World War I, was that really the Armageddon and everything else is to fill in the blanks? Brainwash our grandparents and parents? Because I mean, I'm already a grandparent, you know, and I know people my age, they were great grandparents. It's these guys, they did it. It's always going to be them. And have you taken a look at this? Any of you other content providers, you know anything about this? Because this is recent. And this is one of those crazy free movement rights. European Free Trade Association. Somehow they're still amending it. I mean, a couple of months ago, last month, a little bit after Cinco de Mayo, all persons born in Portugal before the 3rd of October, 1981, are automatically citizens by birth, regardless of the nationalities of their parents. It's like what that United States does. So this was a thing. It's citizens of a former colony may acquire Portuguese citizenship after residing legally in Portugal for a minimum of 7 years. Oh, well, so, you know, you got to do something because we're trying to pretend to the non-binary crowd that it's always been good, always going to be happening. And it's always been mostly peaceful, and that men that try to be masculine are toxic. I've been called toxic. I disagreed vehemently. So the first arrangements for citizenship, they were going towards making nations. Before that, it was kingdoms. You know, after King David and Darius and those guys, after Armageddon, everything was feudal systems. Before they started to make Germany, Bavaria had 3,000 kings and they all had princes. So trying to just show you the Jewish law of return. This is also which said if you're Jewish, you can come back to our country. The route to nationality has been completely stopped by the enactment of the new nationality law. Okay. The law used to work as fellows. An amendment to Portugal's law on nationality allowed the descendants of the Done who were expelled in the Portuguese Inquisition to become citizens Is Sephardic community of Portuguese origin. It might appear that the Sharphetic community from Portugal wants to come back because Germany doesn't want them anymore. They're not the popular thing in 2026. Isn't it funny how what goes around comes around, and you're going to reap what you sow? It's not karma, it's not kismet, it's not fate. It's what the Bible says. We're rooted in a seed analogy. Do you like the way I did that? It was kind of like stumbled upon there. You could tell I had a hitch in my giddy up, but it was like it was coming to me pretty fast. I could barely spit it out. Nobody wants to be socially excluded. Good thing that's not going to have time to implement, except when they take it underground, they'll probably be living on a social credit score. The people running for their lives in the mountains, just barely scratching out a living, barely able to get 4 or 5 drum circles together a year without getting caught. We're going to be excluded by choice. I'm getting ahead of myself. Who is this kid? You Flash Muja? You claiming to be a Jewish now? They're going to let you back? These were the people that the Jesuits went and taught you're Jewish so that they could make a big deal out of saying, and oh yeah, by the way, in your Bible, you'll put the book of Enoch. This is so much of a sick, twisted plan. You know who has more conspiracies than the United States? These guys. Istanbul, Turkey's in Constantinople is in Turkey. How come they can't build like this? This has been a part of their life for a long time, going like, you guys are all lying to us. George Soros. Yeah. We don't talk about him that much anymore, do we? Anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, genocides everywhere, COVID. Somebody I assassinated in 1993, HARP, modernism, secularism. Look at this guy. I've used your hat in the game of Monopoly. A lot of conspiracies, war against Islam, false Muslims causing false flags. That was interesting. I'm moving on. I'm going fast. What is this Freemason secret coalition of the Jews thing? That's just it? Oh, there's a Judeo-Masonic conspiracy theory. Wow, started in 1806. Well, how about that? These things have been around. I never read it. Who needs it? I have the Bible. I know they're bad. Nobody could, just read the Bible correctly. And you can know these guys are the morally bankrupt. Or they'd admit, we found these buildings, we are faking history. They're not going to do that. They want to cook and eat your children. Come on. I meant to say, come on, people now, smile on your brother. Boy, I butchered that. What in the world? Man, that horse has to work harder. You think they're going to give him some food? Catholic France, driven by Jews and Freemasons. This is what this guy thought in 1902. He looks like Ledbetter. He does. Oh, pushing the globe, pushing the globe. World politics, world revolution. Freemasonry is an international organization beholden to Jewry. Jewry. Oh, baby. We looked at this and we'll check it out again. It was an agreement for money to move German Jews to Palestine. They set it up. The Nazis funded it. Hitler was on board and said they'll never try to take it over. They did it. They even made the money. Want to see? Where's that Havara coin? Hey, man. I'm going to have to do a search. Because when you search this and then hit the images, usually there's a coin there. You've seen it. That's a swastika and that's the Star of David. That's a real thing. Here's a book I wrote a long time ago. I'm holding myself to reading it. You know, it talks about loyalty, a lot of things. Really interesting, fun book. Closing out, what is with the two-finger salute? They only list the Boy Scouts and the Polish Army in 1904. And Jesus does a lot with that. You know, in their art, what they do with their white Jesus.
Did you ever wonder why some of the old pictures of Jesus show him holding up two fingers, almost like a peace sign? Well, if you look closer, you can see that he's actually holding up two fingers and a thumb, which is depicting the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You can also see that his other two fingers.
So that's what the Orthodox and the Trinity loving, they will turn white Jesus into a Trinity for, you know, something that really you're not even supposed to have a picture of. Iconography. Lehi, this guy did it. He founded this. Now the founding of Lehi. Let's do that again. Copy. I'm going to use this tab here.
The Israel Defense Force, IDF, was formed in May 1948, just after David Ben-Gurion had proclaimed the State of Israel. The new force was directly put to the test as different Arab nations invaded the new Jewish state. Yet many men in the newly created IDF did have fighting experience. They had served in different paramilitary groups that originated and operated in the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s. Independence fighters to some, terrorists to others. Keep watching. Good to have you back on the channel. If you're new, my name is Stefan. I'm a Dutch history teacher in the McVie area, and we're keen on making this a homeland for the Jewish people. It was known as British Mandatory Palestine. As Jewish immigration to Palestine increased during the 1920s and 30s, it caused more and more violence with the local Arab communities. The British had their hands full at maintaining order, and violence spiraled out of control. Already in April 1920, violence broke out in Jerusalem. As the Arabs' fears of growing Zionism increased, violence broke out during a Muslim festival. 5 Jews were killed and several hundred injured. 4 Arabs were killed and 18 injured. 7 British soldiers were wounded as well. As a result, the Jewish community in Palestine, the Yishuv, realized they needed to arm themselves in order to protect their communities against Arab violence, as they believed the British were not capable of this. Jewish self-defense organizations did exist already before World War I, during the Second Aliyah, which lasted from 1904 to 1914, in which European Jews migrated to Ottoman Palestine in order to live in settlements, kibbutzim, the need for protection rose. Prior to the founding of the Haganah, two Jewish militias in Palestine existed: the Bar Giora, founded in 1907, and the Hashomer, founded in 1909. After the 1920 riots in what by now had become mandatory Palestine, the Yishuv founded the Haganah. The militant organization went on the offensive against both the British and Arab inhabitants of Palestine, but also against other opponents of Zionism. In 1924, the Dutch writer Jacob Israel de Haan, who had been an outspoken advocate of a state in which Jews and Arabs would live as equals, was murdered in Jerusalem. In the 1930s, the Irgun, also known as Etzel, split from the Haganah. There was also the Palmach, and this was an elite unit of the Haganah, founded in 1941. Its goal was to defend the Jewish community in Palestine in case the German Wehrmacht triumphed in North Africa and advanced into Palestine, and to take on the same task by the time the British withdrew in May 1948 from the Mandate of Palestine. Real quick, I have a new YouTube channel. It's called Actual History and focuses on more recent events and its histories. Recently, I made a video on the different views on the 2023 October 7th attacks. In case you're curious, check out the link up here or in the pinned comment. Set up by a left-wing party, the Palmach was notionally committed to socialism, and most members shared the kibbutz ethos. However, tensions developed between them and Irgun and Lehi volunteers belonging to right-wing organizations. Nevertheless, such class consciousness was quickly displaced by nationalist sentiment after the end of the Second World War, as the British became targets for military action. By then, Irgun and Lehi had agreed to coordinate their actions with the Haganah. Despite ideological disagreements, the forces now shared the same outlook: a military solution. The Irgun and Lehi were inspired by a right-wing variant of the Zionist ideology. Different forms of Zionism that emerged over the course of the late 19th and early 20th century. In the early 20th century, practical Zionism saw the light of day. Their focus was on immediate settlement and building infrastructure in Palestine, regardless of diplomatic progress. There was labor Zionism, or socialist Zionism, with the core idea that the Jewish state should be built through socialist principles, especially Jewish labor and collective agriculture via Jewish settlements, the so-called kibbutzim.
They were going to be socialists for a while, but not anymore. Well, I don't know. How does America fit in as their best friend? And they're not socialist at all.
This left-wing ideology became dominant in the Yishuv, the Jewish community in Palestine. There also originated a right-wing Zionist ideology that was revisionist Zionism. Its founder was Jabotinsky. Their belief was that Zionism must be militant, nationalist, and assertive. They rejected labor Zionism and demanded the establishment of a Jewish state on both sides of the Jordan River. We shall have a Jewish state with or without the consent of the British, was their slogan, and they believed Jews had the right to defend themselves and were in need of a strong military. Lastly, they advocated mass immigration, especially from Eastern Europe. Jabotinsky laid the ideological foundation for later militant groups like the Irgun. For some time, the revisionists had considered setting up their own defense organization, which was eventually known as the National Military Organization, or Etzel, its Hebrew acronym. The British called it the Irgun, Hebrew for organization. The violent events of the 1929 Arab riots against Jews in Palestine caused a split within the Jewish self-defense group known as the Haganah. A man named Avraham Tehomi felt the Haganah wasn't strong or militaristic enough, so he created a new group called Irgun. He even tried to get Jabotinsky, leader of the revisionist Zionists, to support it. It also included young activists like Avraham Stern, even though they said they weren't.
This is the Jewish guy, Zionist, that you need to know about, because he led to the founding of the Israeli Defense Force and their actions today. It's why they want the Goy the United States to believe that Armageddon is coming.
Political, most weren't connected to Jabotinsky's youth movement Beitar. Instead, they were drawn to his vision of Jewish national pride and admired past Jewish heroes. Over time, as frustration with British policies grew, Irgun and later Beitar shifted into militant underground groups in the late 1930s, something Jabotinsky himself opposed. This new Jewish force hoped to end dependence on British military protection. Herzl, the founder of political Zionism, had said a Jewish army wasn't a necessary evil, but should be a goal. People like Sterren spoke of sacrifice, not dying of old age in a hospital bed, but taking the last bullet to save the Jewish people. They believed Jews should respond to the growing threat in Europe by building a strong force to defend Jewish life and dignity. The events of 1929 had convinced him that moral arguments alone wouldn't protect Jews. Only visible strength would gain the respect of the world. The Irgun also wanted to reinterpret Jewish history to inspire action. Attacks on the British would continue during and after World War II. Most well known is the bombing of the King David Hotel in July 1946, which killed over 90 people. Lehi, better known as the Stern Gang, was a militant Zionist group founded in 1940 by Avraham Sterren. Sterren, born in 1907 in Suwalki, then the Russian Empire, moved to Palestine in 1925 and studied at the Hebrew University. Influenced by nationalism, the Bolshevik Revolution, and the rebirth of Poland, he was initially drawn to Zeev Jabotinsky revisionist Zionism, which sought a Jewish state on both sides of the Jordan River. However, Sterren broke away from the revisionists, rejecting any cooperation with the British, whom he viewed as colonial oppressors and an obstacle to the creation of a Jewish state. Sterren placed himself on the extreme right of the Zionist movement, influenced by European radical nationalism and fascist models. He envisioned a Jewish state that was authoritarian, ethnically exclusive, and ruled by a strong, centralized government. Unlike mainstream Zionists who wanted a democratic refuge, Sterren imagined Jews holding absolute power, with Arab relegated to second-class status. Under his leadership, Lehi embraced terrorism as a legitimate tool, carrying out assassinations, bombings, and robberies. Sterren admired authoritarian leaders like Mussolini and even Hitler, not for their racial ideology, but for their ruthless methods and power. Interestingly enough, Lehi reached out to the Nazis for a possible alliance. See the end screen for my video on that. Lehi's most notorious act was the 1944 assassination of Lord Moyne, the British Minister of State for the Middle East. Although Sterren was killed in 1942, his uncompromising vision shaped Lehi's action.
So you're getting the idea. I want to jump ahead and let you know that it still goes on with the same thing of, trying to get America to send women to war.
Thus highlighted the violent struggle to unify Israel's armed forces and the lingering ideological rifts among Zionist factions. Despite tensions, by late 1948, all three groups had been absorbed, creating a unified military that became the backbone of Israel's survival. During the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, also known as Israel's War of Independence, the Jewish militias committed acts of violence and ethnic cleansing against the Arab.
I mean, this looks like a pretty happy group right here.
Palestinian population. Violence and expulsions have already occurred before, because on April 9th, 1948, when Zionist paramilitaries attacked the village of Deir Yassin near Jerusalem, a massacre took place. Jewish militiamen killed at least 107 Palestinian Arab villagers, including women and children. The attack was perpetrated by the Irgun and Lehi, who were supported by the Haganah. And
well, I'd like to tell you there's going to be a happy ending. No, that didn't work. Let's see, we're gonna close this one out. There we got the Lehigh. You're down with that. You're down with this guy. Just a little bit more of this.
36-39 Arab revolt, Germany ignored Arab-Palestinian requests for material assistance. But as World War II progressed, the Nazis needed all the help they could get. Hitler found an ally in Hashemin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. He participated in the recruitment of Bosnian Muslims for the Waffen-SS division Handschar. I made
Bosnian Muslims in the
an elaborate video on just that. Click here. Learn about a Jew.
but they're faking crypto Jews, man. Lehigh movement, militant group, couple here. What's this? No, it's that same guy.
Involved in that story as well, but it is not the whole history of these people. You know, I always say when people try to sort of bring out Musaylima, I say, yes, Musaylima was from Banu Hanifa, but we shall never forget that Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab were from Quraysh.
I was going to say
And-
that, yes.
Yes, and Quraysh are يعني, the most honorable Arabs. يعني. Allah chose from Banu Hashim Muhammad, يعني, and they chose from the Arab, he chose Banu Hashim. يعني, this is an honored because they are the family of the Prophet. And yet, they, you know, one of the, you know, they're even worse than Musaylima, يعني, what they did to the Prophet. So it cannot be put upon a people, يعني.
This is very, very, very good and very candid. I like the fact that you were forthcoming with it and gave a lot of context. So what I'm gathering here is that Al Saud, as a family, a clan, a branch, actually traces this lineage all the way back to even before Islam, to Christians who lived in the Arabian Peninsula.
But all of Banu Hanifa were Christians at that time. Most of them were Christians. Now, some of them, what we heard, some of them is like a Hanafi sort of religion. Like, يعني they are muwahidun, monotheists, Christians, let's say. You know, not taking on Jesus. And I think
Monotheistic. Do you understand what they did? They were killing the people who didn't believe in the Trinity because Satan's reset isn't going to work unless they could put fake Jews against fake Muslims. So somebody had to go, and it was the people who believed what I have stumbled across. If you read the Bible, you're not going to find the Trinity. This is all made up. Starfort, baby. What? The stones are crying out.
I'm not well versed on this. Maybe you can help me. I think there was a sort of sect in Arabia of Christians that were monotheists.
Nestorians.
There you go.
Nestorians.
And يعني, of course, this area is all blurred. Were they, you know, monotheists? Were they full-blown Christians as we know them today of Orthodox? I don't know, but
No, today they're classified as Cathars, and you don't have to dig too deep to find out they were burnt to death for no reason after being skinned alive because they denied the Trinity, and for that they had to suffer.
we know that most of them were Christians. We know that even the things that we found a church in Al-Khard, which was turned into a mosque, and it was also under the rubble. So it was very, very interesting. يعني.
I mean, there's a lot of history. The misconception is to really just, to really essentialize everything. It's unfortunate that we have.
I'm pretty mono-focused here on re-centralizing Jesus Christ as what it says in Isaiah 9:6. The governments of beyond his shoulders in the new world. He's the everlasting Father. His name will be called Emmanuel, God with us. Because there was a spirit world and then there was this physical. Hey, the God can divide water. So there you go. Thanks, guys. What's this one? Badlands.
And how the Great Spirit would come to punish those who disobeyed these common commandments. In doing this, Wovoka had gone hand in hand deeper into the mysterious nature of the rock formations in the Badlands deeper than anyone else in the mainstream ever had before. The mainstream then labeled Wovoka a cynic, a liar, someone looking to stir up trouble. However, others, including a bulk of indigenous people in America, joined Wovoka's cause in one way or another, at least lending credibility to his claims about the true nature of the past in America. This uproar led to the American government condemning Wovoka and moving to officially uproot all people who resided in the Badlands and move them to North Dakota. Wovoka subsequently, in these photographs taken before official designation of this national monument in 1929, many of the objects in these images appear petrified, or they're just downright mysterious rock formations. These appear in all of the states mentioned, both of the Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming, and in all of these states, in the earliest photographs, they are all labeled as the Badlands or the Big Bad Lands, as if this name was a moniker used to denote a particular landscape or set of attributes within the landscape. This current narrative continues by telling us that the Badlands were not actually occupied by the Lakota people.
Now, I teach that these hoodoos are actually esophagus pipes with the phalange, cartilage, just hung on the top there. It's obvious. And
Upon their discovery, but instead the Badlands were revered, protected, and well known as a sanctuary for worship and a meeting place for tribal councils. These claims, however, seem to go against what the Lakota people were actually reporting in their oral history. One of these histories being, many Lakota did claim the land formations of the Badlands in all of these states, but mainly in South Dakota, was their own, as if the prairie lands were fertile with hunting grounds for the tribes of the Badlands. These ancient rocks also served a multitude of other purposes. One, the Great Badlands Wall, served as a lookout point for the Lakota, who could survey the landscape from atop these cliff-like walls. However, if the Lakota, or rather, if no indigenous group lived in the Badlands full time, in what way would the Badlands have been so severely occupied that orders were handed down from the U.S. government to retake the Badlands at all costs? In the year 1890, amongst the Sioux people who had been promised the lands of South Dakota and the remaining free spirits of the Lakota who resided in the Badlands, a belief began to arise, which was almost immediately suppressed by the government of the area. However, it still made its way to the mainstream front pages of nationwide papers. This was all started by the indigenous leader, a prophet known as Wovoka. Deep in the Badlands, Wovoka spoke of his ancestors who had built, not discovered, but built the Badlands. Wovoka discussed sin and the Great Spirit, sending destructive forces who wiped out the castles of Wovoka's ancestors. Wovoka spoke of responsibility and trust and honoring one's word, and how the Great Spirit would come to punish those who disobeyed these common commandments. In doing this, Wovoka had gone hand in hand deeper into the mysterious nature of the rock formations in the Badlands, deeper than anyone else in the mainstream, in the surrounding communities of Europeans, which did little to try to understand the plight of the indigenous people. Wovoka also began creating something he called ghost shirts, popular for centuries amongst the Lakota people, but rarely seen by early European settlers. The ghost shirt was meant to be imbued with the power of the Great Spirit, and as long as one remained honest and loyal to their tribe, the ghost shirt was said to deflect enemy weaponry and ward off evil spirits and of these earlier myths. a question that
ACLU and the New England First Amendment Coalition are very alarmed. They said the decision means that police can arrest people and never have to disclose anything about their arrests as long as the police also don't lodge charges. They said it creates a situation that's really ripe for abuse.
And so is that what it's a decision that civil rights advocates say gives police the power to cover up wrongful arrests. Amanda joins us now live here in studio. And Amanda, I thought the state law said that arrest reports of adults were public records.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. Yeah, so, it does. It's supposed to be. In fact, the General Assembly amended the law in 2012 to make clear that the initial arrest of an adult is a public record and must contain basic information about a person who was arrested, the charge, and the names of the arresting officers. Now, James Barsoom told me that he didn't know why he was arrested, didn't see a warrant. He wanted to know which officers were responsible. So I asked the Pawtucket Police for his arrest report. The city said no. I appealed to the Attorney General's office. I was very surprised at their response.
Yeah, why did they refuse?
So the Attorney General's office is interpreting the law to mean that only arrests that result in charges are mandated as public records. Their decision turned on the word "and," arrest and charges. The AG says that otherwise, someone who is arrested and not charged has a right to privacy.
Sure, that's understandable, but Mr. Barsoom went public with his arrest.
Well, the Attorney General's office said that didn't matter. They decided that even though there is a high
What kind of nonsense are they? I mean, I stumbled on this guy. Check it out. It's like, or a Tartarian. I kept saying, where are they going? It seems like he's a human, or were they using robots 5 years ago? Because you could get 45,000 views. Where is he? Where do they go?
Just as a brief intro, in 1846, the USA annexed California, and in 1850 became the 31st state.
Was that too long to tie it back into Sutter's Mill and remember the Nazi that did it? I tried too hard or not hard enough?
The little settlement of Yerba Buena was renamed San Francisco, of course, after the bay, on January 30th, 1847. At that time, San Francisco only had a population of about 800. However, in 1848, a man named James Marshall supposedly discovered gold. News of the find reached New York in December 1848, and as a result, people went to San Francisco by the thousands and the population boomed. Just a year later, in 1849, the population of San Francisco reached 25,000. Now, already we're seeing a problem with this story. Marshall didn't discover gold in San Francisco, but rather in the city of Coloma in El Dorado County.
You get it. I'm trying to tie this back into the conversio crypto Jews that pretended to be Christians and then pretended to be Jews. It's all fake, and then Starfort baby and all that.
Approximately 100 miles away. This is the outline of the county, and the red shape is the city of Coloma. Over here, again, we see the county outlined, and here's where San Francisco would be. So that's approximately 100 miles away. So would people immediately begin to build their homes in San Francisco and commute 100 miles a day to go pan for gold? Now, with automobiles and interstates, that's possible today. It would have been impossible with horse-drawn wagons or pack mules back then. Now, one could say because San Francisco was such a strategic port with inlets into the state that it grew because of that advantage, and that would be true. But if you were a prospector, it would not have been the best possible area to settle in. In fact, as this map shows, the primary areas for gold prospecting were many miles from San Francisco. To the north, you had the Northern California gold fields, and more in the middle, You had the Sierra Nevada goldfields. Again, here is San Francisco. You can see this is probably 200 miles away, and this is 100 miles away from Coloma. So, what then lured them to settle this port city so far from the richest gold areas? Was there another treasure to be found right there in San Francisco? Perhaps one that was above ground, or at least partially. Well, let's stay on track here and we'll just go with the official story for now. So, what would an area look like that was previously very sparsely inhabited, except by Indians, when they arrived? Well, let's just use our common sense. This would be a typical settlement. I think this is actually in Colorado, perhaps built along a wagon trail that would have led west. Had a few entrepreneurs that may have said, hey, let's open up a shop here. We've got some farmers who have settled here and need to come to town for supplies, and others traveling through that may need food, water, or other provisions. And then a few other entrepreneurs join them, and then you'd end up with a little city, or it'd kind of be a little ghost town looking city today. But even for this little city, it probably didn't pop up overnight. There were one or two that started, and maybe a year or two later, a few others. This may represent 3 to 5 years, perhaps more. Another typical site that you would expect to see would be very primitive buildings, these log cabin type structures, these wooden sidewalks to stay above the mud when the rains came through. Here's a little bit more developed city. You see a meat market here, a little more permanent structures. A lot of people with mules, a few horses there. Here we see a general merchandise store, and kind of be like the Walmart of the day. But anyway, just get the idea of how long do you think it would take for all these businesses to pop up? And I'll kind of leave you to guess there, but this could easily be 10 years or more. Here's another very interesting photo. I think this is Colorado as well. You see buildings starting to pop up on both sides of the street. We'll zoom in just a little bit here. We see this mobile house where you can get a meal for 25 cents. A few gentlemen there. Looks like a lady talking to the shop owner here of the bakery, perhaps asking him if he had any pumpernickel bread in. And he sadly informs her that all they had was sourdough. He may have said, well, that'll just have to do. It's interesting photos. Bear with me. I find them very interesting. But again, if you just look, the dirt roads, and these are not new buildings. This town goes for some distance back there. I would be very hesitant to date this less than 10-year-old city, and perhaps more, perhaps quite more, for that to have been settled. Same thing here, a little bit more developed area, still more permanent structures. Again, this town, and it is actually drawn by 6 horses. So this may have been for a longer trip that he was taking, maybe leaving town after a successful business trip. You got this guy who is driving the horses, and of course, who is this guy? So this rotund fellow is what they call riding shotgun. He might be the person you'd run into others. Let me see if I can quickly get over there for you for San Francisco, and just make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, you should be good. Okay, so this would be right before photography was widely used, and so we'll see a lot of these lithographs or paintings or drawings of what San Francisco supposedly looked like, at the time. Now, this one was done in supposedly depicts San Francisco, formerly Yerba Buena, in 1846, 1847. Now, we know it was done just a little bit after that because it lists on there.
San Francisco, the gift that keeps giving. Big earthquake, tombstones used as gutters, multiple fires, all because of that Russian Jewish crypto done who came here and joined the Freemasons, and they found the gold at his humble lumberyard.
That is 5 to 7 years after the first settlers came to San Francisco. Another image, look at this building down here, obvious signs of age. This one here, obviously older as well. Larger structures, developed city.
Jumping ahead. Star for it, baby.
But just amazing architecture that we're seeing here. And this is supposedly 1878. This is the work. It's very famous. You can see it all over the internet, by Edward Muybridge in 1878, called The Panorama of San Francisco. Look at these two mansions, just absolutely amazing. Now, we do see newer landscaping that's done around these. And that's just how absolutely wonderful this structure was all over. And you just wonder, where in the world is this type of architecture? Which is there, and that.
You're going to have to go with It's a Star Fort. All right, let's look at a little bit of the Holy Scripture. We talked about Joram earlier. Now, here's what's happening in Revelation 10:7. But that in the days of the trumpet call to be sounded by the seventh angel, the mystery of God would be fulfilled as he announced to his servants, the prophets. Let's pick it up. Then the voice that I heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, Go take the scroll that is open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land. So I went to him, took it, ate it, got a bitter tummy. Now, he that lives forever and ever, the seven thunders. There's something going on in heaven. He's always had the servants, the prophets. And now, is this important? Measuring staff, 42 months. These are the days. He's going to pour out fire. Now, who was it? Here was, he's finishing their testimony. When they have finished their testimony, because, well, I'm going to start at verse 4. These are the two olive trees and the two lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. And if anyone would harm them, fire pours from their mouth and consumes their foes. If anyone would harm them, this is how he is doomed to be killed. Yikes. They have the power to shut the sky. They had the power to shut the sky, that no rain may fall during the days of their prophesying. Glad those days are over. And they had power over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they desire. And when they have finished their testimony, the beast that rises from the bottomless abyss will make war on them. So in case you're trying to go on, Paco, I've heard those are the bad guys. Well, why is the beast from the bottomless pit making war on them? You want to conquer them and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that symbolically is called Sodom and Egypt. It's called Babylon in another place, but here it's where their Lord was crucified. Those days are over. We have our own problems. This was going to be the worst judgment in the world. Thus says the Lord. That's safe to say because it's in Scripture. But it doesn't mean we have a picnic heading our way. What is a clan? What is a tribe? Here's the thousands. Oh, I think I had it set up on myriads. Wanted to go over that one more time. The Celia, the 1,000 years. It's all so obvious. Did I show that one? Yep. No warrant for your arrest. Tartaria. The last thing was the ghost dance, and it involved peyote And I think that was infiltrated too, because when I tried to insinuate myself into the peyote movement, going on 2 vision quests with Oklava, and I met the descendant of Mooney, the Smithsonian historian, who we wouldn't know about the ghost dance if it wasn't for him. Him and his replacement were trying to take the movement towards a new sexuality and a vast fear of vaccines. Well, I couldn't go with that, but I know there's something to the experience of the peyote. It brought me closer to God. It brought me closer to the Bible. It made me bolder in serving the Lord, of being instant in season and out of season. Come here, visit me. Let's go out and meet some people. Let's go meet some people that already know me and say, how long did it take before he told you he was the end time prophet? I'm not doing this in a basement or in a corner. This is happening real life in real time. I've got to go out as soon as I click this off in about 5 minutes and take out my garbage, pick up my mail. The inner tube is finally here with the patch that is heavy duty because we get a lot of goat head weeds around here. And I put over 1,000 miles on this mini bike, which I'm already looking to replace, electric dirt bike mini bikes. So there is your life to live. And as I started, and I've gone this long, I think I'll read again for the late comers that I wondered why people listen to the excuse when the Titanic sunk of why they locked the servants' whole floors and thousands of them didn't even have a chance. Now, a good and faithful servant gets more than a pat on the back. What motivates to gild the lily? What motivated Dr. Torrance Paco Guasp? He understood the heart is a rope tied in a helical band. It was my understanding that the rocks were reserved in judgment. I proved it to myself because I am theologian. Now I consider myself Alan Salt Paco Hughes. Father rules me with a rod of iron because I do not despise correction. He loves me and he's giving me all these blessings. I am bound as a servant to take those lessons that I learned to heart. I am not so much seeking a reward as I am fearing judgment. My father, my dad, had a positive reaction when he saw that I had put my name on a baseball mitt when I made the team. And I put it in bold letters in all capitals. I know he had a positive reaction because he sought me out to tell me that made him happy. I did not want any confusion. That was my glove. I was telling the truth in that story, and I was more than trying to paint a picture in your mind that my dad had seen other men's sons make their father ashamed. They didn't even try, really. And he would rather not share that type of shame as a man. And so then I went on to explain, how do apples fall far from the tree? We studied Jehoram. If you want to go back over that story, he was the son of Jehoshaphat. And when he became king, because he was the oldest, he killed all his brothers who God says were better than him. It's crazy. And Jesus Christ said that he came not to bring peace, but division. But you can't divide us once we find our true family, and we'll know each other because we have the same message written on our heart. It's the heart that listens to the last verse in the 4th chapter of James. It says, we're past the golden rule of treat others like we want to be treated. We as Christians are told to know to do good and do it not, it's counted as sin. But when we do the good works that he has laid before us from before the foundation of the earth, we build up gold, silver, and precious stones, because we can't take our treasure with us, but we are living stones, like the stones reserved in judgment, that the water can come out of a flint. Of where the big gold nuggets are, our gold dust is enough. We build it up based on the type of soil we were planted in, the type of seed God gave us. He's not going to judge the person that, he gave you 5 seeds. Oh, you got me 5 seeds. That's the bare minimum for a good pat on the back. He's not going to judge the 2 of saying, where's your 5 seeds? It doesn't work like that. But you have to do something. You have to felt like it was your own idea, because you believed in your heart that Jesus Christ rose from the dead because he was God in the flesh, and that he forgave your sins. You have an overwhelming urge at one time to confess it with your mouth because you believed it. Many are called, few are chosen. It's that being faithful. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. The mud flood was Armageddon. There can be no doubt about it. God will not accept your lack of faith. We all understand we've been Hegelian dialectic. We have orphan-trained brains. It's a lot to take in. You're reading the Bible the new way. Is it a surprise they want to lead you to Anunnaki and next week's deception of the aliens? What else would they be doing? It's hard, but it is a straight path and you see it. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sana. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios, amigos, from the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico. Still looking into that Epstein Ranch Zorro connection to Adams State University and enjoying that new way of saying goodbye. Doesn't seem to get old.